Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Mary Rasenberger. I'm Executive Director of the Authors Guild. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start, by telling you a little bit about the Authors Guild, who we are, and most importantly, what we can do for you, and why you should join if you are not already a member. If you are an author and you publish in the United States, or if you are looking to publish, this is your guild. We are the Authors Guild. We're the nation's largest and oldest professional organization for writers. We were founded in 1912, over 100 years ago, by authors, for the mutual protection of authors. I will tell you some about what of our services and our advocacy work, but after I'm done giving an introduction, I'm going to introduce Michael Gross, who will talk about our legal services, and Hector Lugo, who will talk about our website services. And then we're going to open it up for questions. I think you all know that you should, if you have any questions, please just type them in, and I will be seeing them as they come in. You can enter your questions at any time. So the Authors Guild, we provide support for working writers, really a support system. As I mentioned, we provide legal advice. We do free contract reviews, which Michael will talk about, and we fight for the rights of writers, of authors generally. In a sense, we act as the collective voice for American authors. We also provide a number of services to authors, which we'll get into later. Our mission is to support working writers, and which really means anyone working professionally. And we do this by advocating for their rights, by supporting free speech, fair contracts, and copyright. We create community for writers as well, and we fight for a living wage, very importantly. It's a big part of what we do. We believe that authors should get paid for their work when and to the extent they want to, because we believe profoundly that there is a great need in our society and a democracy for professional working writers. And the fact is that authors cannot do this on their own. No one can do this on their own. And that's why the Guild was founded over 100 years ago. We need to band together to fight for authors' rights. I was recently at a conference in Canada where a well-known author there stood up and said, "We stand together or we die together." And I thought that was quite apt. Sorry, I haven't been moving the slides forward. I'm going to let Hector do it. I'm not seeing a way to do it. Is it working now? Okay, sorry about that. Now we're moving forward with our slides. Okay, so if you see the next slide, there's a quotation from a former president of the Guild, Robert Massey. He described the Guild as the meat and potatoes organization, not a wine and cheese organization. I love that quote because it sums up nicely who we are and what we do. We take care of the nitty-gritty business aspects of authors' work. We are for all authors, not just literary authors, and we assist authors in their day-to-day business life. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the founding and the early history of the Authors Guild, because it gives you a sense of who we are and what our mission is. We were founded actually as the Authors League of America, and in 1925, the Directors Guild of America and the Authors Guild split. The Authors League still exists actually, but the directors formed their own organization, sister organization, and the screenwriters later split off also. The founding mission was to protect the rights of all authors and to advise and assist all such authors, which is exactly what we're doing today. Our mission has not changed much. And in fact, I was recently looking at some of the documents from when we were first founded, from our old bulletins going back to 1912 and 1913. And it was interesting to see how similar our mission still is today compared to what the purposes that it was created for in 1912. And there's one entry that I just love that talks about the writer, on their own in isolation, not knowing their rights and not knowing how to protect themselves and being taken advantage of. And that was why we needed the Authors Guild, needed a guild to be formed. And it was, it's still very, very true today. You see authors being taken advantage of. And we're here to prevent that and help authors understand their contract, understand their rights so they're not taken advantage of. One of the fun facts is that our first president was Winston Churchill, but it was not that Winston Churchill, another Winston Churchill. But actually, our first vice president and a founding member was Teddy Roosevelt, the Teddy Roosevelt, who had it was just a few years after he was president, and just months after losing the 1912 primary to Taft. So he was a busy guy and very instrumental in the founding of the Guild. So you've probably heard of a lot of our founding members, our current members, current officers and presidents. In fact, every U.S. Noble honoree has been an Authors Guild member. They're listed on the screen. Several U.S. presidents. I think now there are conflict policies that don't allow current presidents to be members of associations, but Obama doesn't know this, but we'll be coming after him in a few months to join. He is a published author. We have listed here some of the past Guild presidents. Our current president is Roxana Robinson. Some others are Pearl S. Buck, Rex Stapp, Madeline Langle, Erica Jong, Roy Blunt, Nick Taylor, Scott Turow, also Robert Caro, Herb Mitgang, Bob Massey. So it's a very distinguished list of authors among our officers and also all of our members. So let me just mention a few things that we've done in the past. First, I'd like to note that the current copyright law, which is the 1976 Act, is still the primary operating law that we operate under. Though it's been amended, it is substantially what was enacted in 1976. Much of the author's protections that were incorporated in the copyright law are mainly due to the work of the Authors Guild. It was a real leader in crafting author protections in the 1976 Act. We've also helped to restore legitimate tax deductions for authors. We helped the U.S. join BIRM in the 80s and to bring us into compliance, our copyright law into compliance with the rest of the world. We've also won limits on authors' legal liability in contracts with publishers. In a recent lawsuit, which we refer to as a freelancers lawsuit, we won millions of dollars for authors whose works were distributed without their consent. And in the Google Books case, which many of you have probably heard of, we did keep Google and HathiTrust from posting more content. We managed to keep the amounts that they were able to display very limited. We kept HathiTrust from putting up books that it said were orphan works, but clearly had owners there to claim the books. And we've, in many, many cases over the years, we've helped authors hold their publishers accountable for depriving authors of royalties. Most important, every day our legal team provides Author Guild members with full written reviews of publishing-related contracts, and we advise members on all types of copyright, trademark, tax, piracy issues, First Amendment, and also right of publicity. And I'll let Michael talk a little bit more about that. Our ongoing advocacy today, we have been engaging in something we call our Fair Contract Initiative, both here in the United States and with our international partners in the UK, Canada, Australia. And this is taking on some of the onerous terms in publishing agreements. And if you're interested in knowing more about that and the terms, I won't go into them now that we've been opposing. I would ask you to look at our website, which is www.authorsguild.org. There's a whole page of material, a link to a lot of our materials and the various pieces that we wrote on different contract provisions that we've taken issue with. We have been meeting with publishers since, and in most cases they've agreed to, obviously not all of our requested changes, but they have agreed to make some changes to their standard form agreements, which is just terrific. We're continuing to fight for fairer royalties, especially for ebooks. We believe that the 25% standard ebook rate is too low. We have been working on helping authors take action against piracy, and most notably online piracy. We are busy lobbying in Washington for legislation that can amend the current statute in a way that makes it easier for individual authors to get infringing content taken down. And we are also working with another organization to develop a notice and takedown solution for authors. We've been working hand in hand with members of the House Judiciary Committee on a small copyright claims bill. And what this is it would be a new tribunal housed in the Copyright Office that would allow creators and small businesses to bring claims for copyright infringement of $30,000 or less. And the reason for this is that if you've ever had a claim of infringement, you know what I'm talking about. Because even if it's a slam dunk case of infringement, when you go to enforce your rights, you can send a lawyer's letter. But if the other party doesn't do anything, if they don't stop the infringement, then your choice is to bring a lawsuit or just continue sending letters and not hearing anything, in other words, doing nothing. A lawsuit can cost $150,000 minimally, and often cost as much as $300,000 or more. So it becomes really an ineffective means of enforcement for many, many individuals. They simply cannot afford it. The small copyright claims tribunal would be a way for authors to bring claims themselves in a very easy process using the telephone without having the need to hire a lawyer. We are also working on bills to modernize the Copyright Office, and which is a shorthand way of talking about really getting better technology to the Copyright Office so that it can service its users and copyright owners better. We've worked with Justice Department and others in the government and in the Senate to look into the possibility of antitrust claims against Amazon. We do believe that it's unhealthy to have just one single entity controlling so much of the market, especially when they're using that control in many cases to bully some of the smaller players in the publishing field. We're very active also in Washington on copyright reform. The House Judiciary is currently undergoing a thorough review of copyright, and we are very involved in that process. In addition, we regularly look at free speech issues and speak out on free speech issues. And we also are always looking at tax issues for writers, and in fact, we're looking into tax breaks for authors that would recognize the public benefits that authors provide. Can't tell you that's going to go anywhere, but we're going to start pushing for it. So in addition, we are about to launch in the new calendar year a new type of service for marketing and promotional guidance. It'll be like our Legal Services Bureau in the sense that we will provide general marketing and promotion advice and training. We will also provide advice through, as we do now, with legal services to people who email in and ask for general assistance. Obviously, we can't act as a publicity agent for everybody, but we do see this as a real need for authors today, is, you know, helping to understand how to sell your book to agents and publishers as well as to readers, and we want to help guide you through that process. We know that publishers now, when you go to sell your book to them, they want to know what your platform is. Well, we can help you know what your platform is and help you figure out how to build it. We're also developing guides and resources for authors at all stages of their career, things from like finding agents, writing query letters, to working with an editor, you know, life after the MFA, how to submit to literary magazines, mastering the pitch, the do's and don'ts of self-promotion, all sorts of things that authors at really any stage would need to know about. The other service I would say that we provide is community. We find that authors really like, when we provide community. And we're always looking for new ways to support the author community. We do this by providing, by our workshops, our events, social events. We have them in New York. We are going to start a monthly open house here at our offices. And we are also have events, not as regularly, of course, but in other cities, and are looking to do more and more of that. We also have Facebook groups in other cities, local Facebook groups, and if you are in a city that doesn't have one yet, please, and you would like to, reach out to us, and we can certainly get one started up. And it's a great way for people in a particular town to stay in touch with each other and let each other know about various events and what they're up to. And we're always open to new ideas for building community. The next slide is just a list of some of our educational seminars and workshops. It's just to give you a taste. I won't go through them. You can read them. The last thing I want to talk about are our new membership categories. We have just introduced 2 new membership categories, which we're really excited about. These are for student writers and for emerging writers. Traditionally, the Authors Guild has required that you already be published or that you have a contract for publication. What we've realized is that there's a whole group of emerging writers, student writers, who really need the kinds of advice and help that we can provide. The business aspects of writing have changed tremendously in the last decade. But what we hear is that MFA students or others entering the writing profession aren't being taught strategies for this new era. And this is where we feel we can jump in and provide a lot of advice for those who are seeking to become professional writers. There are a number of things that any emerging writer needs to know today. And one is that being an author today means you're an entrepreneur of sorts. You need to know how to market yourself, how to build a brand, because even if you've got a great publisher, they're not going to do it all for you. And for most emerging writers, you need to figure out a way to patch together a living. So it may be that you've got to supplement your income with other work besides writing books. Could be writing articles, teaching, etc. And last but not least, we highly recommend that you insist people pay you. Always ask to be paid. And I think with that, I will turn it over to Michael now to talk about our legal services.
Good afternoon, authors. My name is Michael Gross, and I'm the Director of Legal Services here at the Authors Guild. I have been with the Guild for nearly 17 years, and in that time, I've handled over 7,000 individual legal queries. I am here today to discuss how the legal department seeks to serve the individual members of the Authors Guild, as well as the community at large. First, I will discuss how the legal department services full-fledged members. Authors who are admitted as full-fledged Guild members, as opposed to emerging writers or student writers, are entitled to full access to the legal department and the services we offer at no additional cost other than the yearly dues fee. The department provides a vast array of services which I will discuss in turn. Turnaround time for queries can vary. We reserve up to 2 weeks to respond to any given matter, but in most cases we'll respond in a much shorter term, often within a day or two of when a query is submitted. You can always ask for an estimated turnaround time when you submit your query, and one of our attorneys can get back to you. There are currently no limits on the number of times you can contact the Guild's legal department and ask for assistance. If we can help, we will. Moving on now to our first slide here, contract reviews and contract questions. First, we'll discuss traditional book publishing agreement reviews. The Authors Guild's legal department will provide line-by-line reviews for all author-publisher contracts governed by U.S. law. While the Guild cannot negotiate the individual agreements directly on behalf of our members, we do work with our members throughout the negotiation process to help them obtain the best deal possible. Even authors with agents come to us during contract negotiations for advice, and we are only too pleased to help out. Now, one may ask, why would I need to have my contract vetted by an attorney? I just want to get my book published, and that will happen if I sign the agreement presented by my agent or I sign the agreement presented by the publisher directly to me. Well, the short answer is that publishing contracts can potentially strip an author of his or her copyright, or can pay royalties that are terribly low and lock an author into a terrible deal that he or she has no way of getting out of for a long period of time. Yes, the author's book may be out on shelves and people may be buying it left and right from Amazon, but the author may not be reaping the benefits he or she deserves if they just sign whatever contract is put in front of them. For this reason, the Guild's line-by-line review is critical to authors negotiating publishing agreements, as it warns them of nearly every potential pitfall they will face if they sign the contract presented without negotiating it first. And this reasoning applies to why a member would want any agreement reviewed. We'll next talk about the freelance agreement reviews. The Guild counts many freelance journalists as members. As such, we're happy to provide full line-by-line reviews for all freelance agreements governed by U.S. law. Freelance agreements can be especially draconian, and it is imperative that a freelancer understand what he or she is signing before committing to any assignment. As to film option agreement reviews, while film option agreements can be highly complex, the Guild's legal department is happy to provide basic advice on film option agreements and is always happy to refer members to outside counsel if the agreement is especially complex or the author wants someone to negotiate the agreement for them. Likewise, in regards to translation agreement reviews, the Guild also counts translators as an integral part of our membership. We generally will provide line-by-line reviews of any translation contract governed by U.S. law. Additionally, we're in the process of preparing a model contract for translation agreements. As far as multimedia agreements, Like film options, multimedia agreements can also be highly complex. Nonetheless, we are happy to offer basic advice and refer the member to outside counsel if he or she needs someone to negotiate it for them. Now, as far as agreements governed by foreign law, while the Guild does not provide line-by-line reviews for agreements governed by foreign law, we're happy to try to address any specific concerns our members have prior to their signing such agreements. And finally, in regards to contract questions, in addition to providing full written reviews of unsigned contracts, the Guild's legal department is happy to answer any question you may have on an already executed agreement. Now, moving on to dispute intervention. While disputes certainly do not always arise in the author-publisher relationship, when they do, you can rest assured that as a Guild member, our legal department will advise you and stand by your side if we believe you are in the legal right. While we can't sue on an individual member's behalf, we will try to intercede and help the member and their publisher or other conflicted party come to a mutually agreed upon settlement of the disagreement. If we've exhausted all efforts and an impasse clearly arises, we will try to help the member find outside counsel if he or she wishes to pursue formal litigation. Now, in regards to reversion of rights, when a member is no longer receiving income from his or her work, or the member's work is simply not available for sale, it is crucial for the member to have the opportunity to regain his or her rights before finding a new path through which to exploit the work at issue. For this reason, negotiation of the out-of-print clause is critical prior to contract execution, as the only way for an author to get out of a publishing agreement is often through the provisions of the out-of-print clause. The Guild's legal department is prepared to help you not only negotiate a fair and reasonable out-of-print provision, but is also ready to help members enforce it when the time is right. We can provide sample reversion request letters and even intercede on the member's behalf if the publisher is slow to respond or wrongfully denies the request. As far as other advice we offer, as Mary had stated previously, the Guild provides advice on a host of other topics, as well as copyright infringement, copyright registration, trademark law, tax law, First Amendment law, and trademark, I already said that, sorry, as well as a host of other issues that may arise. Basically, anything that you're concerned about, feel free to ask, and if we can't answer it, we'll try and find someone that can. Now, in regards to non-member services, the Authors Guild is happy to provide legal assistance to non-members, as well as to our emerging writer category and student category for a reasonable fee. The following is a fee schedule. Written contract reviews, $500 for members, for non-members, free for full members with a 3-year membership commitment. Our legal team will provide detailed written reviews of all types of publishing and related contracts, including traditional publishing, e-publishing, and self-publishing contracts, agency agreements, multimedia deals, film options, freelance agreements, and other book-related contracts to help authors understand what they're giving away before it's too late. As far as copyright registration, we will do that for non-members for a fee of $250 or $125 for full members, including the filing fee. While copyright registration is no longer strictly required to obtain copyright in work, the law provides certain advantages to rights holders whose works have been registered. It establishes a public record of a copyright claim. It's a precondition for filing an infringement suit, and if a work is registered within 3 months of publication, higher damage awards and attorney fees are available in a successful copyright suit. The legal department will take care of completing and sending to the Copyright Office the application, fee, and deposit copy of the work. As to statutory termination of transfers of copyright, we charge $350 for non-members, $200 for members, including the recordation fee. The Copyright Act lets authors terminate grants of copyright assignments and licenses. We will analyze whether and when termination is possible, advise authors as to their options, and prepare and record with the Copyright Office the necessary notices of termination. In regards to rights reversion guidance and support, $250 for non-members, free to full members. The plethora of new distribution platforms available to authors means it's more important than ever for authors to claw back their rights when publishers have stopped actively exploiting them. The legal department will advise authors throughout this process, though we won't be able to guarantee a successful reversion. And finally, the Guild does draft O1 visa support letters for a fee of $250 for anyone who needs entrance or needs to remain in the country. The Guild legal department will review and, if appropriate, draft the letter on behalf of the foreign author who needs to work in the United States, and would only accept the money if we can write a non-object or support letter. Finally, as to submitting a query, I know a lot of you have asked specific questions. Some have been in regards to literary estates, some have been in regards to contract situations. Rather than trying to address all your individual situations on this conference call, I ask that you please email staff@authorsguild.org and include any documentation, contracts, and correspondence that may be relevant to the issue submitted, and one of our attorneys will get back to you. On that note, I'm going to pass this to Hector, who's going to provide an introduction to web services.
Hi, this is Casey from Copyright Clearance Center. Hector's call just dropped real quick, and he'll be joining us in just a moment, so everyone just bear with us for a minute, and we'll begin again shortly.
Sorry, everybody, a little technical difficulty here. I'm going to jump back to a couple of questions. I know one person had asked about what we would negotiate in an agency agreement. Some of the things we would negotiate is the right to terminate that agreement. The commissions, basically, anything that we feel is unfair, and there could be a host of issues, we would warn you about in the written review. And I think we are back online, so we'll pass it back to Hector.
Where's your groom? Where's your brush? Honey.
Hi, okay. Hi, so my name is Hector Lugo, and I've been with the Guild's Web Services Department for about 9 years. The Guild began offering web services, if I'm remembering this correctly, since 2003. And while there have been many changes, mostly upgrades to our offerings, the mission has still been the same. That is to help writers build an online presence as easily and affordably as possible. And websites have become, now more than ever, very important for writers. So why choose the Guild for your website needs? Websites have become essential promotional tools to market and showcase your works. They're also fundamental in attracting new readers as well as staying in touch with your current ones. As publishers increasingly put the burden of online marketing on authors, the Guild has stepped in to offer easy website building at affordable pricing. Our site builder is built from the ground up for our members, which means the software is designed specifically with authors in mind. And what that means is that it's very easy to use and no technical background or HTML experience is necessary. Software features include newsletter and blogging functionality. The website also allows for a contact form. There are many different layout and theme options with various color palettes to choose from. Most websites are only $9 per month. Domain name registration and email hosting are also available. Personalized customer support from the Authors Guild staff. And what this means is that it's really easy to reach us by phone or email. Turnaround time for missed calls and email is usually less than a day and no more than 2 business days. So we do our best to get back to members and to answer emails or calls as soon as they come in. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. And this is the authorsguild.net homepage. We encourage you to visit this page for more information. But on this page, members can take advantage of the Guild site building service and have us set up a website for them by clicking on the Build My Site link. That's towards the top. Members will just have to fill out a quick and easy form, and the form will just ask for things like a bio and information about your works in writing. And that's really all there is to it, to have a website up and running in less than a week through the Guild. You can also create a test account or build the website out on your own by clicking on the test drive link, which is right next to the Build My Site link. You can create a test account even if you're not a member, just to see what the software is like and just to see if it'll meet your needs. So moving on. So here's some examples of some site builder websites. So I'm just going to go through a series of slides with some screenshots. So this is Dan Burns' website. Here I kind of want to point out in the left-hand column the social media widgets that he uses. You can see the Facebook like button and the Twitter follow button. So Site Builder allows for easy implementation of your social media widgets. And on this slide, just an interesting theme. It's one of our palettes for the Enigma theme, which is a good choice for genre writers who write mystery, romance, or horror. It can easily fit any of those. Here is Fred Bowen's website. I just wanted to point out the video embed in the center column. So Site Builder allows for easy implementation of objects like embeds for YouTube or anything else that works similarly. And so this is one of our children's themes. This is one of our cookbook themes. This is one of the palettes for our legend theme. So as you can see, there are many different templates, and they're all pretty varied looking. This is Chris Rumble's website, and he's in one of our Western themes. Just wanted to point out that this theme is in a 2-column layout. So far, I've shown only 3-column layouts, but you can switch between the two for whatever suits your needs the best. This is one of our romance themes, and that's also the blog page. So that's an example of a blog. This is an example of what the newsletter page can look like. Notice the subscriber box in the left-hand column. And finally, this is a sample of what a contact page would look like with a contact form in the center. And this kind of lets readers get in touch with you pretty quickly without having to display an email address on your website. This should just help limit the amount of spam that you might receive if you were to list an email address directly on the site. And you can also see some a Facebook widget in the left-hand column there. that's pretty much it for the web services portion of the webinar. We hope you consider the Guild for your web services needs. Contact info below if you would like to reach out to me at a later time. So there's the number, the email address where you can reach me, and the web services homepage at authorsguild.net.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we are now going to be answering questions. If you have not entered a question yet, I will ask you to do so now. I'll be taking them in order that they were submitted. I know some people also submitted questions when they registered, so we will be addressing those as well. Okay. I'm going to start with, I'm having trouble finding the scroll button here to get back up to the top. I'm going to start with some of the questions that were asked when you registered. Okay, so there were a number of questions asked about how we can help authors who are seeking to self-publish or independently publish, in other words, be their own publisher. And that is a huge area of growth for authors. It's something that we absolutely support and are working very hard right now to provide more services for authors who want to self-publish, because it is a wonderful alternative for certain authors or for an author who usually traditionally publishes, but for a certain book you'd rather self-publish it or you haven't found a publisher for it. So it is something that the technology of recent years has made really, really easy to do in many ways. So what we're doing specifically is we are currently preparing, drafting, and buying a lot of content for our website. We will have it on the website sometime by the end of this year, beginning of next year, though I'm fairly certain it'll be sooner rather than later, about how to self-publish. So it'll be very, very helpful information there. We will start having regular webinars on self-publishing and specific issues in self-publishing. Also, when you're your own publisher, obviously marketing, knowing how to market yourself is hugely important. So our new marketing and promotion services will be of tremendous help there also. And again, to the extent that we're not providing information, resources, or help that you're looking for, we want to hear from you so that we can. We are currently building something we are calling the Writer's Resource Library. That will have a lot of information in it about self-publishing, as well as A to Z types of issues for those who traditionally publish as well. In addition, and this is to answer another question, somebody asked if we could help find translators and a skilled translator. So we are building another tool on our website called the Writer's Resource Marketplace, because what we found is that for self-published authors, as well as for traditionally published authors today, there is an enormous need for assistance from professionals. You want to hire your own editors, you want to hire your own publicists, you may even need to hire your own copy editors, as well as translators. So that's something that we're building now. It will be ready sometime in 2017, hopefully in the spring. But currently we don't have that on our website. We do, though, have a translators group. We have a couple subject matter member groups. One is children's literature authors and the others translators. And if you join and get involved in that group, that's a good way also to fund translators. There was also a question about if we have a registry of agents actively looking for authors. That's another thing that we are currently trying to build. There are, however, existing registries of agents which you should be aware of. The AAR, which is the Association of Artist Representatives or Book Agents, their website has a list of agents, and there are a couple other online guides. In addition, Writer's Digest publishes something called the Guide to Literary Agents, and they've come out with one just in 2016, which is good. Now I'm going to go to the next question, which is for Michael, and that is, what is the turnaround time for the Guild's legal review of agent and publishing contracts, and how does the legal team intervene when needed? Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take it. As I said in my initially, turnaround time, while we reserve 2 weeks, the general time is a couple days. Depending on how busy we are, most of the time we can get something out usually within a week, but we do reserve the 2 weeks. As to interceding in the dispute, once the member has written to whatever party they're in a dispute with and they haven't gotten a satisfactory response, if we can, we'll jump in and write a letter of support on behalf of that member if it's appropriate, and take whatever steps further that are necessary to try to push through some kind of settlement that's mutually satisfactory to both parties. Now, again, if we can't do that, we're happy to refer the member to outside counsel. And also, somebody had asked about international translation agreements. We will look at those and make comments as well. If you have international copyright questions, feel free to ask them. We'll do our best to answer those as well. So yeah, basically any question you have, submit it to staff@authorsguild.org, and someone will try and get back to you, as soon as possible.
And there's another question, Michael, related question. Is there a limit to how often a member can ask for legal support?
Yep.
Within a year?
No limits right now. If we can help, we will. So if you had, say, 4 different contracts come in 1 year, we would review them all for you.
Okay, great. And Michael, why don't you take this one too? What about help getting reversion of rights for an out-of-print book? Here somebody says that they've twice requested and twice denied. Why don't you talk a little bit about, the issue? Somebody else actually said, how can you get your rights back after the contract's been signed for paper book and audio book rights? So why don't you talk about, sort of reviewing the contract and
sure.
figuring out how to go from there.
Glad to do that. Once somebody has tried to get a reversion and they've been denied and they ask for us to sort of intercede, what we would request is a copy of the correspondence, a copy of the contract. Once we receive that, we will analyze what has gone on, and if we believe that you have a right to this reversion and have been wrongfully denied, we'd be happy to step in and write to the publisher or talk to the publisher on your behalf and try to convince them, why they are wrong and you as the author are right. This doesn't necessarily mean that we will be 100% successful in doing this, but we will make every effort we can to get your rights back for you.
Great.
I saw some web services, and I think one was about search engine optimization, or what do we do, how do we decide, how do they appear in the Google searches? So there are things that we do on our end, and there's also advice that we give to members who have a website with us that want to improve their Google search engine rankings. So if you have any really specific questions on how we actually do that, just send me an email and I can get into the details for that. There was another question about if you already have an existing website, if we help you move that over to our hosting. If you're interested in using the site builder software, unfortunately, you cannot use Site Builder to edit or modify your existing website, but we're happy to help you set you up with a new account with Site Builder if you're interested in rebuilding it. You know, we can help you with that. And then another question about the difference between just having a Facebook page versus having a website with the Guild. A Facebook page doesn't offer a lot of the functionality that Site Builder does. So, I mean, if you're looking for something that's relatively simple, a Facebook page might suffice. But if you need a blog and newsletter functionality and just a cleaner way of having people contact you, the Guild website can really help you out.
I saw a question. I'll just answer one thing. Somebody asked if a publisher, someone had asked if a book's publisher had gone out of business, how would they get a reversion? So the first thing you'd want to make sure to do is figure out if another company acquired any of the titles of that out of business publisher before they actually went out of business. If you're certain that no titles were assigned to anyone else and the publisher has just completely vanished, basically the contract would be nullified because there's no parties left. If the corporation's been dissolved, and there are ways to check that through state resources, then we can help the member figure out if there's no company left and there's no one responsible for these titles. If the title's just in limbo, then generally it's accepted that the author retains the rights or gets the rights back, because there'd be no one to contest the author's exploitation of such if there's no company.
Okay, thanks, Michael. So I'm going to ask the next question to Hector. There are a couple questions, actually. One is if web services are only available if the author uses one of our templates, and the second is whether we offer, whether authors can offer webinars through their Authors Guild website.
So we do offer domain name registration and email hosting, and you don't need to have a website with us to take advantage of that. We do offer another hosting service. It's called Hosting Only, and that's where we host a website that's not built with Site Builder. So if you built it with some other type of software, we can host it. There are some caveats though to that service. So if you are thinking about a website like that, we will need to know how you're planning on building it. So we need to talk to you individually. So you can just send me an email to webservices@authorsguild.org and ask for hosting a webinar type thing on your website. We don't offer that right now for Site Builder, but that's something we can jot down as part of our ongoing maintenance and improvements to our software.
Okay, thanks. There are a couple questions about the small claims bill that I mentioned earlier. One is, what you can do to help, which is a wonderful question, and that's great. So what you can do, obviously, is reach out to your local congressmen and senators, write letters to the judiciary, or if you join as a member, we will, be sending out materials to our members for letters at the appropriate time to sign on to in petitions. But the fact of the matter is that members of Congress, they listen when they get letters from their constituents. It actually really does make a difference. And also just speak out about it. I mean, the more people hear about it and and start talking about it, the greater the chances that Congress will say, oh man, yeah, this really is something we have to get done. So somebody asked if we could speak more about the method of doing this by phone instead of hiring a lawyer. So the way this would work is that you would essentially file a claim with this tribunal in the Copyright Office. The forms for filing the claim would be relatively simple because the idea is that you would not have to hire a lawyer to do this. The process would be simple, and it would have to be a pretty straightforward infringement matter. I think they're talking about limiting the types of claims so that anything that's very fact-specific, for instance, that involves fair use, they may not take. Those are issues still being discussed in the bill. I should say there is one bill that Congressman Jeffries already introduced and another that Congresswoman Chu is about to introduce. They're somewhat similar. And so far there's a lot of support for these bills. And not a lot of resistance. So it's very hopeful that this will go through. The process should be relatively easy. The one hitch, though, and this is a big hitch, is that the defendant has the right to opt out. And the reason is that for constitutional reasons, you have to give people the right to be in federal court. And so the drafters of these bills have decided that the only way to make this work outside of the federal court system would be to have an opt-out. So if you have an infringer who does not want to settle with you, for instance, someone who is out of the country and you can't even find, this probably unfortunately won't help a lot. In that case, you need to, really, if it's online infringement, work with the notice and takedown. Somebody did ask about how do you deal with Google if Google's making available an infringing copy of your book. And that is something that can be addressed through a notice sent to Google. There is information on Google's website. It's pretty easy to find as to where you send the notice. They have a form on the site. It's a takedown notice. Now, we have been very active, Ryan Fox and I. Ryan's a policy advisor and editor here at the Guild. We've been very active in lobbying and commenting on the need to revise Section 512 of the Act. And without getting too technical, the Copyright Act that allows, that shields Internet service providers from liability as long as they comply with certain conditions, one of them being that they take down infringing content upon receiving a notice from the copyright owner. And there are lots of requirements for that notice that are laid out in the Act. With respect to Google and most of the big ISPs now, they have forms that if you fill out the form completely, you will be complying with all of the information that needs to be provided. So, it is an easy way to get that, the copy down, but they'll only take down the copy that you provide the URL for. And the problem is that commercial pirates, they just move to another username or they just post it somewhere else. So it's what we call the whack-a-mole problem. And it's why we've been fighting so hard to get Section 512 amended, because it's really ineffective if you just have to send notice after notice after notice. That said, it's better than nothing. We are working with another organization, the Copyright Alliance, on providing a solution. Well, they're working on it, and we're just riding on their coattails, because it's something that we think is absolutely necessary for individual creators to have a means of addressing these kinds of takedowns on a more mass basis, so that, for instance, you can go to Google and be what they call a trusted notice sender, where they will agree to look out for infringing, essentially look out for infringing content and possibly even use filtering technologies. So that's still all in the works. So somebody, let me move on. Somebody else asked if we still file friends of the court briefs in existing court cases involving members. We absolutely do. We recently filed a friend of the court brief in a, well, actually it was the antitrust suit against Apple. And we also signed on to an amicus brief in a, amicus is the official legal name for friend of the court brief, in a case involving a law that prohibited journalists from having hidden recording devices in agricultural industrial sites. In what state was it, Ryan? In Idaho, which was, it was, you know, these big industrial agricultural facilities didn't like film being taken of their inhumane practices. So we definitely still do that. Okay, lots of questions coming in. This is absolutely wonderful. Okay, somebody else asked if you should copyright your submission draft before submitting it to agents and publishers. That is something that people used to do. It is really not necessary anymore because you are protected by copyright simply from having written it. You don't need a registration until it's been published. It's a good idea. You don't get the benefits. You don't ever need to register, but you don't, to get the benefits of registration, such as getting statutory damages and attorney's fees, you need to register within 3 months of publication. So, and that is, if you're self-publishing, that is something very important to remember. Also, if you have a traditional publisher, they don't always do that, which is kind of surprising. They'll say they'll register it, but they don't always register within 3 months. So that's something we try to get in contracts. Okay, I have a question I'm going to give to Michael. This person has a question about approaching his or her publisher directly with a second book about a right of first refusal rather than through his or her agent. Michael, do you want to respond to that? Is that something?
Sure. Basically, I'd have to see the contract to determine what your obligations are with your option. It's hard to say what's going on unless I see the material. So I'd ask that person to send in their contract, send in their question, and we'll take a look and tell you whether you have to go through your agent or what the deal is. We probably need to see a copy of the agency agreement as well. But yes, that would be very fact and contract specific.
Okay, thanks. Here is a question about, does the Guild cover the work of librettists, for librettos? Do you want to answer that, Michael?
I'm not sure what they're referring to.
Oh, well, okay. It's basically, it's text. It's the text of a musical, right? A libretto or of an opera.
No, we don't really handle music questions so much. Maybe very basic ones, but we do not do music contracts.
Right, but we do, but technically the Guild, you can be a member if you have published, well, if you've published a book, if you've published articles, poetry.
Right. Yeah,
so So a libretto might count as a written work for purposes of membership, absolutely. Okay, here is a comment that a Chinese site has been stealing one of my educational titles for years. The publishers tried several times to take it down. They take down one and two more pop up. That's what we call the whack-a-mole problem, and it's huge, and which is one of the reasons that we spend a lot of time in DC talking about piracy and working with the Publishers Association to find ways to deal with it here in the States as well as overseas. It is becoming a growing problem for books because there's more e-books. Okay, I'm looking to see, okay, here's another question that we can answer. I'm scrolling through to make sure we've answered all your questions. This is a very good question. Do you like an insider's perspective, like a ZAGATS that ranks your comments to many publishers on various criteria? Okay, I love that question because it's another thing that we are planning on doing. We used to do something like this, and we haven't in recent decades, but we have been speaking actually to some publishers about doing so, and one of the major publishers asked us to do so after we told them that their contract actually wasn't so bad compared to some of the other big publishers. So, and it's something that our council would very much, like to see us do. So yes, that is in the works. Okay, so if you have any more questions, please type them in now. I think we've gone through most of them. If I've missed your question, let us know. Okay, here's a question about the translators group. It says if it's meant to serve your members who are mostly written in English, I assume that would be for translators out of English into other languages. Well, yes. I would say yes, that's the majority, but that's not exclusive. If you are a native speaker of another language and you're translating into English, you absolutely could be a member of that group as well. Okay. I am going to give this one to Hector. It says, please tell us more about how the Guild can help us build or promote our platform. I don't know there if you're talking about the author website services or the marketing services that we're proposing. Do you want to talk about how you can help build the website?
The website, yeah. So it's important, it's important nowadays for authors to have a website and to use the website to promote and market their brand. So that's just one way to do it, by having a website. We can help you set one up pretty quickly and easily. And then with the website, we do have ways to help get the website in Google search engine rankings pretty high once they've launched. And you can also use the website to promote your social media as well. Many of our members do that, and a lot of publishers, they've stopped the marketing and promoting of an author's brand. They're kind of having authors do that on their own, and one of the easiest ways to do that is just to have a website, and so we can help you set one up pretty quickly.
And in addition, we'll be doing a lot of training starting now on Twitter, using Twitter and Facebook to help establish a marketing platform. Different platforms work better for different authors. It depends in part on your personality, what you like to do. It also depends on the type of book. If it's children's literature, you might want to use Instagram. And it depends on, who your readers are and where they're most likely to be. That is the type of advice that we can help you with once we have our marketing and publicity bureau going, more individualized advice it will provide. But we are starting this fall to provide webinars that are, and in fact, we've actually been providing seminars on marketing via Twitter and Facebook and social media for a while now. But that is another way we can help you build the platform. Okay. Do we help with registering trademarks? Michael, I'm not aware of it helping.
We don't register trademarks for members right now. But if they have questions, we're happy to try and guide them. We'll also most likely encourage them to contact the trademark office directly for assistance as well. But if it's something that I can help with or one of our attorneys can help with, we will try.
Okay, thanks. And we can give you advice about how to do it. We also, as Michael said, we do keep a list of attorneys that we refer our members out to, and they've agreed to relatively low prices, and that's why they're on our referral list, and they're all good. We've worked with all of them. So particularly for something like trademark assistance, tax assistant, literary estate matters. What are some of the other things we refer out for, Michael? And litigation, of course. Because I should say, yeah, go ahead.
Author versus author disputes. As you said, literary estate stuff, some tax stuff we'll have to refer out to, certain multimedia and film agreement questions might be a little complex. Basically that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we will litigate on behalf of authors, but only if it is an issue that involves a large number of authors, where it's a more general issue. We do not litigate on behalf of authors with individual disputes. Yeah, and we don't take sides between members. We have conflict rules that govern that. If we don't get involved in negotiations directly either because of conflicts issues, we really provide behind-the-scenes advice for things like that. There are some questions coming in that are very specific about how do I deal with this particular legal situation. I would strongly suggest that if you're not a member, you join and send an email to staff@authorsguild.org and we can help you. We can't, in this kind of forum, give you specific legal advice. So if you have a question like that and I'm not answering it, that's why. Okay, but we do, every question I've seen so far is something pretty much, unless I've mentioned it, that we definitely can help you with, including issues like fair use. Can I use this photograph? Someone asked about a cartoon character. I mean, there's no way we can answer that generally. We'd have to know certain specific facts about, where the cartoon character was from, et cetera, because we'd have to make a fair use determination. Okay, here's a question. Would it be worth registering a work after the 3-month period? Are the legal benefits greatly diminished if done after the 3-month period? I would say absolutely register work after the 3-month period. You do lose certain rights, but those are just sort of the extra incentives for registration. The advantage to registering is, one, you cannot bring a lawsuit without registering first. And in fact, it's still being debated whether in this small claims tribunal you'll need to register first or not. But registration is a way of letting people know that you are claiming copyright in the work and that you're the owner of the work. And if somebody's infringing, it's always great to send them a letter with a copy of your registration or the registration number. It is a very effective device for enforcement. So yes, I would still register. Registration, the fee is only $65, so it's really, and it's very simple. You can do it yourself online. If you have, as Michael said, we will be doing registrations for authors, and if you have questions, we can always help you out. Do we give advice on finding an agent other than just sending us to a list? We do, and we will, but that is through our resources, our information. We actually have, I think we have a recent article on how to find an agent, that if it hasn't gone live yet, it's about to go live. Oh, and we also have an interview with 3 agents. So that's exactly the kinds of issue that we write about and that you'll find in our Writer's Resource Library. Okay, I think okay, I'm going to answer one more question. I'm going to explain the question and hand it over to Michael. This is a good question about timing. So I'm going to read the question. It's somewhat involved, okay? Is there a provision that can be added to a book contract for when a job well exceeds the initial timeline? Okay, I'm not exactly sure if you mean it's in early or it's in really late. More specifically, if an artist keeps his or her responsibility and meets timing, okay, how can the artist be protected from excessive rounds of revisions and indecision on publishers' behalf regarding decisions on a cover? Michael, do you want to try to answer that? There are standard provisions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It really is contract dependent, what you negotiated. If you believe that's going to be a concern before you execute the agreement, then you need to specifically address that in the agreement before you execute it. I can't really just say generally how this would work without knowing the specific facts of the contract. I'm sure this person who asked this question most likely already signed the contract, and the contract may be silent on this. So if it's really silent, it would, I think, generally be a reasonable person, reasonable publisher standard. I would encourage that person, if they're not a member, to join. If they are a member, to send the question in with their contract and correspondence, and we can look at it.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that pretty much concludes our session for today. There will be other webinars that we're doing with CCC. There's a whole series of them, and you should be getting invitations to them if you haven't already. So I want to thank Copyright Clearance Center for giving us this opportunity to talk to all of you, and I encourage you to reach out to us with any questions you have, and of course, to go to our website and join. Thank you very much.